It's time for another movie review anniversary type video. And this one is going to be more interesting than the Sandlot video I did. It's on holes. Yeah, one word and sounds generic. It turned 20 years old this year since it came out in 2003. And I am so ready to talk about this movie, which I did talk about the movie before in one of my videos a year ago. You'll see when I get to one part later. So, you all are wondering, what's Holes about? Well, it's actually based off of the book of the same name by Louis Sachar. The book was a critical and commercial success for young adults, which it came out in 1998. In fact, my brother owned a copy of the book, and I still hold on to it until now. And it's my favorite book to this day. I'm not a big book reader, but I really love reading Holes. So after 5 years, Disney made the story into a live-action movie. So, let's talk about it. The story centers around a boy named Stanley Yelnats IV, played by Shia LaBeouf, where he's wrongfully convicted of stealing a pair of sneakers that were donated to a charity. He is sentenced to Camp Green Lake, a juvenile camp, where the boys spend each day digging holes in the desert, and if they find anything interesting inside the holes, they earn a day off. Meanwhile, in the whole movie, we get a series of flashbacks about the lake where originally was a town, as well as the history of the Yelnats family. Then later, one of the boys named Zero runs away from the camp, in which Stanley starts searching for him. Thankfully, he runs away, finds Zero, they go up the mountains, and then return to camp where they find, what else? A chest. So yeah, I can go further, but I'll talk about the ending in a second. This is probably the most complex plot I've ever heard since I was a kid. And the novel was similar with the complex plot too. Who knew that a movie would explain of digging holes every day and finding a reward at the end, plus some flashbacks, but we'll get to that. Aside from the plot, the characters are really likable. There are some characters that don't focus too much, like Stanley's parents and grandfather. They only appear at the beginning and the ending, and that's it. But hey, I still enjoy them, despite they don't get a lot of focus in the movie. Same with Clyde Sweetfeet Livingston and the attorney. You have a few characters in the flashbacks like the great-grandfather, Madame Zeroni, an onion man named Sam, and a teacher named Kate Barlow, who would later on change from being a teacher to outlaw bounty hunter. That's fascinating. But now let's get to the characters that got a lot of attention in the whole movie. You got Sigourney Weaver playing the warden, John Voight playing the assistant Mr. Sir, and Tim Blake Nelson playing Dr. Pendanski, the counselor. These three knew just to hit the right mark of over the top. They were just enough to be kind of intimidating and silly at times, but I really do like their performances in the movie. Now on to the D-Tent boys, including Stanley. They are really memorable. And while they don't use them since the spotlight in the movie is Stanley and Zero, the rest of them are fun. I really do like their nicknames. Yes, it's incredibly ridiculous since the original names are mentioned briefly, but that's what the author did. The way the boys deliver the lines in the movie is actually pretty convincing. And yeah, it does remind me a bit of The Sandlot in a way. Not only that movie, but it reminded me of The Goonies. There's this sort of real talk to the way they say everything. I like Magnet, Squid, Zigzag, X-Ray, and Armpit. Even Twitch, where he didn't appear much until the end of the movie, but I like him fine. So yeah, love the D-Tent boys and their personalities. And of course, I couldn't leave behind Zero and Stanley. Zero's real name is actually Hector, and interestingly, there's a story explaining how he got sent to camp. And I really love the bond between him and Stanley. Cleo Thomas was really good portraying Hector, or Zero, depending what you call him. Now to Stanley Yelnats. I know Shia LaBeouf was an ideal casting because during when the movie came out, he was filming a few episodes of Even Stevens. But yeah, I like the choice. And Stanley's arc in the movie is more on discovering and finding out about the past of the whole family curse. But I really do like Stanley Yelnats' character in the movie. Whew, man, that was a lot to talk about the characters. Now let's move on to other things. The flashbacks. This is hands down my favorite flashbacks in any movies. Okay, aside from one from Casablanca, but this is a lot. They show past flashbacks of Yelnats' family, and then the lake where it was a town until it dried up. I will say, the flashbacks in the present story does go back and forth throughout the whole movie. In fact, I'm enjoying both of them. I didn't find it annoying or groan, do we really have to go back to that story? No, I was interested, and it's perfectly balanced. Speaking of that, the climax is actually not that big. It's pretty subdued, but you know what? That's the kind of perfect tone the movie is. I mentioned this in the Sandlot video, but I like showing life in the movie. No complicated plots, no villains, none of that. Now, how close is this movie to the source material? I say it's pretty faithful. And interestingly, the author actually wrote the screenplay for the movie. So, yeah, it's faithful to the book. Yes, the book has some slight changes, like Stanley is overweight in the book, but in the movie, he's average. Like, you can't change from what they are, but you can make the closest it is. I should talk about the songs, since I couldn't leave this portion behind. There's some really good songs in the movie, and I even really like Dig It song, and the boys actually sang it. Love that song. Now let's get to minor nitpicks in the movie, and I only got two. One is the editing. I will say the editing is great for the most part, but the editing in certain scenes that's not that hot, especially the cutaways. It's pretty distracting. The other one is the CGI on the yellow spotted lizards. Yeah, they use the effects on them when they darken the lizards. Heck, they use real lizards when they're climbing on Stanley and Hector. But yeah, it's distracting when using the CGI on the fake lizards. So yeah, that's pretty much else I can say about the movie. In which, that leads to my important part of the video. Is it really my most watched movie? Okay, this is the part I wanted to talk about. As you know, I did a video last year called Top 5 Most Watched Movies, and I put this movie on number 1, even more than these 4 movies seen here. But this is true, you guys. Holes is the movie I watched over and over and over again. I did see it in theaters, just to clarify. Then a year later, I bought the DVD and kept for that long. It wasn't until the year 2011 where I watched it so much. Also, the commentary on the DVD, whether if it's the author and the director, or the 4 D10 boys, that is still my favorite commentary out of anything I've listened. For years, I have watched it so much, and by 2017, I took a break on the movie. Thankfully, I did a promise on the video that I said that I was going to watch on Disney+, and I did. I watched it last month, and it holds up incredibly well. As for the quality, it looks great on streaming, but it hasn't changed to the slightest, aside from HD. Well, unfortunately, the movie has been on DVD for a while. Then in 2018, it finally made it to Blu-ray, hence the anniversary text at the top. But the only way you can get this is to get it from Disney Movie Club exclusive. But let me know if the quality is good on that. But like I said, it still looks great on a streaming service with HD. I just wish they used the quality a bit better. But still, it is my most watched movie to date. Also, I have to mention this. This movie is really underrated. I mean, I have seen people talk about it, but not that much. And I gotta mention this. This has to be my favorite live-action Disney movie. Well, I don't think it's the best live-action Disney movie. That goes to Mary Poppins, which is a wonderful movie, by the way. But Holes is my favorite because it's very smart, very well acted, it follows the book closely, and I really like the sense of nostalgia. And this might shock all of you, but this has to be my top 10 favorite movies. Yeah, it's right up there with Beauty and the Beast, Batman 89, and a few others. I mean, I can't put it at number 1 because Gone with the Wind takes the spot. But man, I really love Holes movie to this day. Now, if they ever make a remake of the same name, which it probably will, it won't top this movie, but who knows, maybe if that ever happened. So yeah, that is all for the review of Holes. This was a great video to do, and this is still one of my favorite movies. No question about it. But that is all for the video for the month of April. Now I can move on to media videos for the month. I will see you all in the next one.